Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Endless Celts Podcast. My name's Stephen, the host of the Endless Celts. Hope you're all well who's listening. I'm delighted to be joined by show regular Francis. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, Stephen. Not too bad yourself.
I'm fine, but I'm fine. Originally,
Good.
this show was meant to have 4 people on it, but things have come up and Niners does too, eh?
Yeah, there's two.
What we're going to do is going to be a slightly different podcast. It's not going to be too long or too in-depth. We're just going to have a wee transfer roundup, talk about players we've brought in, especially the final day there. It was quite busy. And we'll also kind of touch upon areas that we feel that could have been strengthened. Obviously, we were all kind of aware it'd be hard to get every position strengthened in this window, but going forward, what we can look at and we can look to add in the January transfer window anyway. But we started off with the signings. We signed Joe Hart, Juranovic, Carl Starfelt, Cameron Carter Vickers. Oh,
It's a tongue twister.
That is a tongue twister. Uragidi, Liam Scales, McCarthy, Liam Shaw, Abada, Jada, Kyogo, and Giamakis. So all in all, that's 12 players that's come in, Francis. It was a busy final day. We signed 3 players. We signed Jada on loan from Benfica with an option to buy. We also brought in Carter Vickers with an option to buy from Spurs. And then Giamakis came in as well. And I've quite thing today. I've seen that he was given the number 7 shirt. But touching upon them 3 at the start of the show, in terms of Vickers, I think he'll be a great kind of sign the centre back. He's already had international pedigree with the United States national team. He played in the championship last year with Bournemouth, and by all accounts, what I've been reading, he was one of their star performers. And then you look at the likes of Jada coming in. Now, we spoke about this on the last podcast. He does look frightening. Again, that's YouTube clips. We can only go by so much, but I'm led to believe he's won awards at every kind of age level in Portugal. He was on loan to a Spanish club last year, albeit he only made 18 appearances, but again, he seemed to do well. He scored a few goals and assisted a few goals as well. And then we've got the Dutch league top goal scorers come in, Giamakis, and he was handed the number 7 shirt today. That's big shoes to fill. Henrik Larsson, all them players, just to name a few. So coming to yourself, Francis, with them 3 coming in the final day, 1 striker, 1 centre back, and a wide man, how were you feeling when you seen them players coming through?
I was really happy, Stephen, because it was obviously 3 positions that we all wanted strengthening, especially the left wing and striker position with Christie and Édouard going out the exit door. So it was 2 positions we really need filling. I mean, we needed the left wing position filling anyway. Christie isn't a left mid, but he was doing well in that position. But the fact that he'd left the building, we needed someone in. And yeah, like we said in the previous show, going by the YouTube clips and stuff, our man Jota looks a real good player. But like you've touched on, it's YouTube clips. Giamakis, I'm kind of on the fence with. It's just simply down to is he a 1 season wonder or is he not? Hopefully, for our sake, he's not. But like any normal Celtic fan like yourself and stuff, we'll give him a chance. We'll let him. We'll give him as much a chance as we can give him. Then Carter Vickers was a nice one to come in, just simply as we said we felt we're a wee bit short in the central defensive position. So it was good to actually get that one sprung on us, because by all accounts, watching the transfer deadline day, it didn't look, apart from Jota and Giamakis, it didn't really look like we would get any other business done. And even then, I'd have still been happy if Carter Vickers didn't come in. I mean, I actually went to bed because it seemed by all accounts his name was getting mentioned throughout the day, but after sort of I think it was Jota was the second one that got announced. It just seemed dead quiet. Everything never really seemed like Carter Vickers was going to leave Spurs. Everybody was just trying to get him on loan, but obviously Daniel Leigh was a hard man to deal with, and I think it all came down to the fact that they managed to get him signed on a 1-year deal, and it might have just simply been down to timing that the English window was closed or closing. There wasn't enough time to actually do a deal there, so that maybe worked in Celtic's favour. And I like the Carter Vickers and Jota deal with the fact that they've been transparent in the board and it's with an option to buy. Like I said on the previous point, I hope these kind of deals have got an agreed fee with that. So if the guy does actually have a great season, we can't afford them come the end of the season. So it's good that they've got that.
I mean, the way you said there, you went to bed, my eyes kept closing, and then Celtic put a tweet out saying, and another one. And
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be Carter Vickers coming in, but I just wanted to see it, so I stayed up and I paid for it and worked the day after. It was knackered, but obviously, we'll touch on now. Going to like Zavadi, Christie, and Leigh Griffiths have left the club. They left on the final day as well. But I mean, by all accounts, Giamakis, just to focus on him a bit, as you said, is he a one-season wonder? Because by all accounts, his best goal scorer season was last year in the Dutch league, and he finished top goal scorer. But his club got relegated, and we spoke about this on our actual podcast chat in terms of the group chat. And it's like, why are no other clubs coming in for him, or what is it? There must be like a hitch. There must be a part of the deal
Yeah.
we're missing here, Francis. But I looked at him today in some of the training pictures they put out, and obviously as just glances and what you see and on the Instagram feed they put up these stories and all. He looks like a battering ram. He looks like a machine. He
Yeah.
looks well built, and he looks quick from the clips I've seen of him. Do you think, especially with Kyogo as the first choice striker, for kind of Giamakis to come in or even start with him just for that bit of physicality? Do you think that could help Kyogo kind of release himself even more on defenders?
Oh, totally, Stephen. He is going with what I've seen as well, obviously from Instagram, then watching videos online of him. It's totally different from anything we've got, because he does look like he's a tall battering ram, got that strong physique, and he does seem to score all kinds of goals and stuff. It looks like he's a composed, certainly from a lot of his goals last season, they're very composed finishes and stuff, and he was scored a few headers as well. So it could help. Sometimes you might need to change and go two up top and stuff, and maybe just like go old school and play the little guy off the tall guy. Sometimes football doesn't need to be awkward to beat a team. Sometimes you could just go old, kick out the park, guy knocks it on, and Kyogo plays it off. So it gives us a different option, which is always good going forward.
Yeah, a wee bit of Scott McDonald and Fennegar Hasling.
Yeah,
A bit of back there, isn't it?
That worked all right.
Did work all right. Big Fennegar Hasling. I mean, what a player he was. I loved him. That
Scorer
header.
he's always scored big game goals.
He did
Always
definitely.
scored
And then
big game goals.
you look at the likes of Jada coming in. He could be the Mickey Johnson we've all been crying out for. One that stays fit, hopefully. He looks like he can. I don't know the clips I've seen of him, Francis. He looks frightening. The way he takes the ball and the skills he does in tight areas, it's something to look forward to. Carter Vickers, as you said, it's a welcome addition to the centre back kind of area. I know we'll have Starfelt with signed Uragidi and Liam Scales. I don't really know about Liam Scales. Let's touch upon him a wee second. Now, he's came from the Irish League, and I've seen that Celtic put out a wee clip of him, and he totally skinned Sorrow inside out, and he placed the ball in the bottom corner. But again, Sorrow hasn't been that good this season, so you can't really take much from that. But Liam Scales, Francis, now all the League of Ireland fans that I've been seeing on Twitter are saying this guy can come into our team at left wing back, and he can also play centre back role as well. Do you think possibly he could be Greg Taylor's kind of competition, or even his predecessor, someone to take the jersey from him?
I actually do, and I've got to credit. I used to call him a friend, Colin Watt, until he stitched me up with that quiz on his show that I done a wee while back there. But I actually was listening to the Axon thing the other day when they were talking about the sort of window, and he had said that he thinks he might be a replacement. And I've watched a couple of clips on the back of that, and I can see it because Colin actually mentioned a good thing where he said he's also played on the left of a back three, so he might be more natural to come in. Obviously, because Postecoglou likes his right and left back to maybe come in and play a sort of a centre midfield type role. That he likes him to come into the middle of the park at times. So it might well be that he can play centre half, but it might be as a direct competition for Taylor. So you and Colin Watt might be onto something there.
Yeah. I've seen clips of Liam Scales, like he's played in Europe and all for Shamrock Rovers, and he's actually scored some cracking goals as well from outside the box. And as you said, that kind of versatility, if Postecoglou, as we all know, wants to play them inverted wing backs or inverted full backs coming into space in the middle of the park, he can exploit that by even going wide himself and bombing up the pitch. I mean, that's if we're playing a back three. But one player I want to touch upon as well, and we've only really seen the game of him in the Glasgow Derby, and he played at left back. But Juranovic, the right back Croatian, he, by all accounts, I mean, I think Croatia were playing last night, and he got player of the match, man of the match, and he got a good rating, and he was playing right back. Do you think, obviously, Ralston's been playing, he's been playing well, but again, I think in Europe he gets found out and stuff, and I've been critical of him. and I'm going to stand by some of it. I think he's going to be solid in terms of playing in the SPFL for us in cup competitions if Juranovic needs a rest. But you look at the types of players that Postecoglou's brought in, most of them are 26, 25 with the odd young player free in. But Juranovic, for me, Francis, is a great statement of intent because this guy he's in his prime. Croatia international, right back, was a mainstay for Legia Warsaw and a good team in Poland. Arthur Bhoys, obviously, the holy goalie plays there, and he gave him his blessing to go to Celtic, which was fantastic to see. But what's your opinion of Juranovic at the moment?
Well, I'm still on a high from him. Like the last podcast, I really do think we've got a really good player in our hands, and a little bit me does feel for Ralston because I'm a little less critical, Stephen. I think the guy has been brilliant for us this campaign. Yeah, the Alkmaar away leg, he wasn't great, but there was not many pass marks there. But incidentally, I feel the first leg against Alkmaar, it was probably his best game I've seen him in a Celtic jersey. So he showed he can go to that level, just maybe not consistently. And like you said, I think he's found a role in the team as well, deserving of the jersey. And by accounts, it should be his jersey to loss now. But after seeing Juranovic, his debut at left back, and then hearing about his performance for Croatia and that, and I really like the look of the guy and his numbers going forward for League of Warsaw and things like his assists they're in double figures and stuff. So it's kind of gold dust for a right back. You don't really buy that for $2.5 million or whatever it is we buy it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this guy. I think we've got a real good player in our hands there. And some of the reports you've been reading, like things online, that's certain folk from the Croatian team and things like that can't understand how we managed to get him for $2.5 million. It's just simply because an internationalist, like you say, at 25, 26-year-old and that. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing more of this guy.
Yeah, I mean, the right back position has been a problem. Obviously, we lost Lustig, and then we tried to bring in like Jeremy Toljan and Moritz Bauer. And so, I mean, it's been a Jeremy Frimpong. I mean, all credit to him. He was brilliant going forward. Obviously, ball like, but he could skin players for fun. Defensively, he got found out as well. So maybe this guy coming in Juranovic will be the mainstay going forward. He signed a 5-year deal as well, which I think in terms of modern day football, especially at a club like Celtic, that's kind of rare. Usually it's a 4-year deal and they're looking for a move. Now we've seen that with loads of players, but one other position that was a big problem for us was goalkeeping position, Francis. Now
I know.
If people listen to the podcast like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks ago, they'll still hear me and maybe a bit of you kind of wanting Barkas to stay number one. I don't know what it is, but a part of me is always going to feel sorry or bad for Barkas. I just think there is a keeper there, but he's never going to rediscover it at Celtic, and I kind of came to terms with that. As much as I wanted him to be the number one, we did sign an experienced goalkeeper, former England international, over 75 caps, Joe Hart. Now, for me, I made this clear as well. I couldn't stand Joe Hart. I really couldn't before he came in to Celtic, and that goes as far back when he was playing for City and England, and I always thought Fraser Foster was a far better goalkeeper than him. But again, people look up here towards our game, especially down south, as kind of the pub league. So Fraser Foster never really got a chance in the England team, Francis. But you look at Joe Hart now, put all his ego and stuff aside that we thought he had, and he's come into Celtic and he's bought into the whole environment. He's like the vice captain, to be honest. You see him talking to McGregor all the time, and he's organising that back four. When I was at the Hearts game, the cup one, which won 3-2, you could hear him shouting all the time at the back four, organising. And there was a clip in the TV when we played Rangers, and he's literally, his face is going purple, shouting at the wall where to be, and no one's listening. He's trying to shout louder, but he's made a big difference for me to that defence. I know there's still shaky times and that kind of thing, but that's going to take time to come. And I think Joe Hart is a major building block on that. What's your opinion on that signing?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I've been totally proved wrong on the Barkas one. I'm with you. I'll stick with you simply because there's nobody else on the podcast that's got to go against us.
Is that right?
They're not going to go against us, but I do believe there must be a keeper in Barkas. He's just he's in the wrong move here at Celtic right now. I don't think it's ever going to happen for him at Celtic. And like you say, when you've got Hart coming in, he had that early against Alkmaar, but apart from that, I don't think he's really made any other glaring, obvious mistakes. He's had really good saves and key saves in important matches. So, and like you say, his experience, I believe he was the vice captain at Man City and stuff, and then obviously was a key part of a couple of their league winning title campaigns. So it's again one of the ones you don't get that experience for that kind of money. And if the stories are true that he was on about 60,000 plus a week at Spurs and came to us for 15 grand a week, then it just shows you the guys here for footballing reasons and nothing else. And that's always got to give you a good head start if they kind of stories are true, I should say. And yeah, I think it, like you say, if with that experience, that a commanding figure of organising the defence and it's just got to benefit the team going forward, because you've kind of got to build from the back. I feel like that's get the foundations right. And as much as it kills me to say it, Barkas, what on the evidence of what we've seen, would never have had this kind of impact. And it didn't. He wasn't a talker, and I think he needs to keep it to do that.
No, he wasn't a talker. I mean, in terms of the kind of leadership department, commanding your backs, Joe Hart's miles and streets ahead of him.
Yeah.
And there's also a link there with Carter Vickers as well. He's come in from Spurs, so by all accounts,
understanding there.
Yeah, but by all accounts, Joe Hart wasn't first choice of Spurs, so he probably knows Carter Vickers well. And if he slots into defence, then you're already putting them building blocks in place for going forward. Now, we've signed Carl Starfelt, Uragidi, Liam Scales, Abada, all them types of players. But there's one player I want to talk about, and it's for me. And I know I've heard Celtic people or Celtic fans saying he'll play a big part, but it's James McCarthy, and for me, it's the strangest signing of the window. Now, yes, we've left this window, the deadline day passed, and we're kind of weak in the midfield area in terms of centre mids. But James McCarthy at 31 on a 4-year deal, I believe, and he won't be on a low wage, Francis. I just think for me that's a strange bit of business. I can see the whole Irish connection, but you also have to factor in there as well his injuries. He's played about 16 games in 3 years, so I don't get why we signed him. I know there's the experience side of things, but you kind of counter that with likes of Hart, Joe Hart, McGregor, Juranovic is experienced. What's your take on the whole McCarthy thing?
Yeah, I'm similar. Like when I'm similar. I never actually thought about it. Strange, but as a wee bit, I think it was always a name that was always linked with Celtic many times, and a wee bit of me thinking it's just time, and it's what was that? It was a free transfer he came in as well. So I think a lot of that's down to the fact that we've not actually paid a transfer fee for him. We needed recruitment, and I know Postecoglou's came out and said he'll not just sign anybody for the sake of it. I think McCarthy might slightly be one of an exception of that. He's maybe been brought in to bolster the number, if you like. I mean, I think you will obviously get the experience from him. If you can keep him fit, you will have a very handy player in our hands. He's not a match winner, but he's certainly the type that will not lose you a game. He'll be able to control the pace of a game. So I think if he can stay fit, I think it can be a good signing. But I get what you're saying. It's a strange one. It came out the blue. I feel like it was. I can't remember reading any rumours that we were in from. It was all about Hart. Then the next thing we'd signed both of them the same day. But it's not one I'm disappointed it came in, but it's not one that I've got excited about either.
It's almost like McCarthy got on the wrong taxi. It was Joe Hart's to Glasgow. He's turned up to the boardroom. They're like, "Nah, should we do it?" And they're like, "I just go for it." But no, I get what you mean. Look, free transfer, but again, you have to factor in what wage will he be on. I don't think he'll be on peanuts. He definitely won't be. He's been on high wages most of his career down south. But I mean, before we kind of move on to obviously rating the window and kind of giving the summary on it, the players are read out. I'll come to yourself first because you're the only one on, Francis. Which of these signings excite you the most and why?
Well, Juranovic, I think a lot of that's down to being a problem possession, but just his first game, I thought he was outstanding. And it's just like when we're sort of linked with him, I watched a lot of clips and I was desperate for us to sign him. He's one that excites me. Hart, I don't know if it excites the right thing. I'm just happy more that we've got a keeper I can trust. Abada excites me. He's old school. He's a wee bit an old school winger. Likes getting the ball and run it. But Jota excites me as well. Similar to the Abada, quite style and stuff.
So everyone.
I know them, but I think you've got to go with Kyogo, haven't you? Just the start he's made. How can it not be him?
He's lightning. He's mad, isn't he? He does embraces everything to do with Celtic, and
Yeah,
it's the smile he puts on your face, isn't it?
I know.
Every time you look at him, whether he's running or he's playing football or he's in the stands clapping the fans, you just want to smile all the time. He brings that happiness and that joy that kind of, as fans, we missed last season, obviously with that disaster and stuff. But
Yeah,
the
but I
hope,
think a lot of that's like a culture thing. Like the folk,
yeah,
like Asian folk, they generally are a happy, kind nation sort of thing. Like folk from Japan and that, they always just seem to be happy.
yeah. I mean, we could learn a thing or two from them, couldn't we?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
But I mean, for me, it is Kyogo. He's the number one, but I'm going to throw in there Jota from Benfica. I just think he has the potential, even though we haven't seen him. But I'm just going by the loads of clips I've seen and I've watched.
Yeah.
He looks fantastic, and he's won awards at every level in Portuguese football, whether it be national or league in terms of where he's playing. And I'm just excited to see him. For me, the window in general, Francis, has been probably for me about a 7 out of 10, because we're going to come on to the stuff we haven't really kind of strengthened. And you've seen what happened last season when we got ahead of ourselves with transfer windows, when we signed Shane Duffy and the likes. People were giving it 10 out of 10. This is amazing, and look what happens. Obviously, you look back in hindsight and you can
I
say,
think, well, yeah, in hindsight, because last season that on memory, that's one of the best windows I think we've ever had on paper and on memory. But oh god,
we spent upwards of £20 million, didn't we, or something? So
yeah, but
I mean,
some of the players were like Bellerman, Barkas, Duffy. Yeah, it was on paper. These were good players we were buying.
yeah, and the experienced international players too, which was the weird thing about it. But what would you give this window in terms of the score?
Yeah, I think seven's fair. I think seven's fair, just on what we're basing it on. Like it's a massive turnaround. I think it's about 30 odd players if you include the ones that left, and then if you include maybe the Colts players that we've brought in that could potentially step up depending on how many games they play there. But yeah, we were never going to get every position in. I'm surprised we've done as much business as we did. So I'm fair. I'm not going to get too carried away simply because of what you touched on there of last season's summer window, but maybe that's just me trying to be a wee bit more reserved and not get too excited so I can get a nice wee surprise. But I think seven's a fair judgment just on the face based on what we've got, considering obviously you lost Christie and Édouard and things like that. These are big game players as well. So I think I'd be happy with a 7. I'm fairly okay with the window.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there, as you said, the turnaround in players has been massive, especially like Odsonne Édouard leave, Christie go, Griffiths is out on loan. I mean, many Celtic fans don't want Griffiths near a club, and I'm included in that. But before we touch on the outgoings, obviously, you look at the window, but you have to counter it with some kind of different views. And for me, we're lacking depth in the left back area. I know Greg Taylor, he's been doing well, but he's injured. Well, I think so Juranovic played for him in left back. He's injured. Don't know when he's back. You've got Bolingoli, who looks like he's getting nowhere near the team. Montgomery can play that position, but again, you're relying on a young player. You look at the centre midfield position. You've got McGregor, Beaton possibly gets pushed back up in the centre midfield. You've got Turnbull. You've got obviously McCarthy and Shaw and Luke O'Connell if you're going further down the squad. But again, I think we're lacking quality in that position. Left mid, I know we signed Jota, but again, Johnston, he's injured. I know Kyogo can play there, but we can't get the best out of him when he's playing left mid. And one of the most important positions for me, and I don't know about yourself, Francis, is centre attacking midfield. And at the moment, we've got 2 players to play that role, and that's Turnbull and Rodgers. And even at that, Turnbull plays as the 8 because McGregor needs someone beside him. And I just don't think that Rodgers is enough to get us through the season in that position.
No, I get the lack of sort of depth as I wouldn't say concerning, but it was always going to be hard. Like I thought, so I think it was 16 players left, a lot of them first team players and stuff. So you were always up against it. We knew it was going to be a big turnaround and stuff. So there is obviously, like you say, the left back position, but maybe Scales could be slotting in there, so it gives us 2 options there. Montgomery maybe could play the sort of left mid role higher up the park. He played that came on against Rangers and played that position. So there is versatility in the team, but it's obviously not ideal. But I think it's it's one of these ones when we knew we were never going to get all this business done in the one window. It was always going to take a few windows. I'm a wee bit, I don't know if it's right saying I'm a wee bit like yourself, but I'm a wee bit like a manager where I wanted everything done now. I understood that we would get everything done, but at the same time, I understood we wouldn't get everything done in this window. We'd maybe need 2 or 3 windows, probably 4. But at the same time, I'm looking at after the first window going, how we not done this? How we not done that? So it's I'm one of them. I'm not ever happy, but at the same time, I'm happy with it. It's just, it's a weird one. And then I think you've kind of got to credit Dominic Mackay and Postecoglou in this, the turnaround I've done to actually have us playing decent football and looking competitive, like we will put a good challenge in, considering we've done it without a head of recruitment as well. So I'm hoping now at the window, like what they'll start working on is getting the backroom team and all that kind of sorted up until January, maybe work on that side of the rebuild. So yeah,
I hope so in terms of the backroom team, to be honest with you. Like, you're looking at the goals we're still conceding, set piece goals, and there's John Kennedy and Steve McManus in that back room. Do you know what I mean? What are you doing, guys? Get that sorted out. But obviously, in the initial fan press conference when they first come in, they did speak about getting past this window and then looking at modernising, that word again, modernising the football department. But I know it's 2 days in, but again, 2 days into obviously the deadline being passed, I mean, by that sense. And there's been no kind of murmurings that anyone's been linked with these roles, but obviously maybe in months to come that's going to fall into place. As you said, we're all impatient. One thing's done yesterday, but you look at I know I said earlier about Rodzic, the centre attacking midfield, and his fitness always gets called into question. And the reason I think he was left out of the Rangers game was purely because of that as well. The game had passed him by, much like we've seen in the Alkmaar game when the midfield was non-existent. It's a concern for me that the fact that we're kind of relying on him now to play all these games, and the injury room, to me, if you look at it, McGregor, Turnbull and Rodzic, there's not much steel in there, and we've seen 2 games in a row, Francis, where the midfield battle's been lost. Do you not think that's a wee bit of concern?
Yeah, I do. Like Turnbull's I don't know if I'm reading too much into Turnbull's performance against Rangers, but it does look, I don't know, like his conditioning is up there. It's like he just, he's obviously got that bit of skill to get away from someone, but he doesn't seem to have the sort of speed and power to actually drive and run away from a player. So that is slightly concerning for me. And like you say, it's the fitness side of Rogic and Turnbull. They don't seem to always last the full 90. And yeah, it would have been good to get someone else in there, maybe just to drive us on a wee bit, but it maybe wasn't for the lack of trying. It's just maybe the right guy wasn't there, and maybe he's hoping he can get through until January, because I think he's also said that he would maybe try and exploit the Japanese market again in January. It's a lot easier to do business. So I think he's hoping, he's obviously was trying to prioritise other areas, and because they start obviously Rogic, Turnbull and McGregor, the way they kind of played their 2 home games, I think, and against Alkmaar, I think he was hoping this might be okay going forward. But then obviously the away leg against Alkmaar, then the Rangers game, he's kind of got his question, all that. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm worried, Stephen, but it's not ideal, the sort of the engine room, if you like.
That's what I'm saying. The only worry I have is the fact that them guys, McGregor, Turnbull and Rodzic, they're the nailed-on starters in kind of the centre midfield positions and the attacking midfield. And you go below that, you've got McCarthy, who won't be match fit for ages by the sounds of it. Liam Shaw, who's kind of dropped in the pecking order. And then obviously you got Luke O'Connell, who's a great ball player. But again, these guys aren't first team ready for me. And I think we should have kind of prioritised at least one more midfielder. I know Beaton can come into that position, but I just believe Beaton should have left, and I'm really surprised he's still.
It's all defensive, but it's all defensive. We're more want a 10, a Christie.
Aye, yes, no, that's what I'm saying. We've kind of got no number 10 apart from Rogic now, which is a bit like, come on, we should have kind of done that position. But I'm glad you brought up Christie, and we'll move on to the outgoings on the final day. And it was quite busy in terms of that. We're seeing Odsonne Édouard leave, go to Crystal Palace for around about £16 million plus add-ons. Ryan Christie got his dream move to Bournemouth, who's all he wanted to play for since in the Championship. Yeah, and that's been for around £2 million because obviously the fee's going to go down because he's out of contract soon. And then Leigh Griffiths has joined Dundee on loan. And while he's at Dundee, he's still trying to fight with Neil Lennon. I don't know why, but we'll get into all that soon. Now, first, we'll touch upon the Odsonne Édouard thing. Now, many people in the podcast group have kind of vented our frustrations at Édouard for months now that his heart's not been in it. And we all expected this day to come. But I have to admit, when I seen it all come through, I was a wee bit, not emotional, but a wee bit just down watching all his clips, all the goals he scored.
Yeah.
When he gave us 100%, when he was running behind, when he was taking defences on for fun. And I'm looking at them clips going, why could you not just do that just last season and the start of this season? Does it give us all great memories again of you before you go? But by all accounts, Francis, he was a fantastic striker for us. He was brilliant. The goal he scored at Ibrox in that 10-man game and 1-3-2, fantastic. Yeah. The goals he scored in Europe, I mean, the free kick he scored as well, penalty kicks, whatever it may be, he was a brilliant servant for the club. And obviously some Celtic fans kind of have a sour taste in terms of his effort and stuff. But just putting all that aside for now, Francis, he's got us moved to the Premier League with Crystal Palace. Yes, Crystal Palace are nowhere near the size of Celtic as a club. But Édouard, as he stated, wants to play in the Premier League, and he got that move, and we recouped £16 million for him. Do you think that was a great bit of business? And also your thoughts on Édouard leaving too?
Well, first of all, like, as when a guy's been so public about what he leave and stuff, and he's only got a year left in his contract, we know we always kind of get shortchanged anyway in Scotland. So I think it is a good piece of business to get that kind of figure for him. Obviously, there's certain add-ons. I suspect there'll be a sell-on fee. Yeah, obviously PSG will be entitled to some of that, but I think all in all, it's as good a deal as I think we could have expected. If maybe a couple of other teams that were rumoured to be linked with him got involved, you maybe could have drove that price up, but it seemed Crystal Palace were the only ones that put a firm offer in, so you've always got to struggle to get that extra few million when you're not actually competing against anyone. But as for Édouard, the player, he didn't seem like his heart was in it last season and the start of this season, but like you touched on there as well, it's the goals the guy scored. Like his initial loan spell, he was up against Dembele, and I think obviously Griffiths at the time who were doing well. He came in eventually on a permanent deal for what is still our club record signing, and the guy for me has lived up to that. And the important goals he scored, like, well, we obviously had Dembele like the goal against Rangers, and when he left, we were like, what's happening? And Édouard, just being the nice guy that he was, just thought, well, I'll take over this mantle and I'll score the goals against Rangers. And but even like the treble winning goal and stuff, just that game, it was absolutely brilliant against Hearts and stuff. It's so many good memories for the guy. And that, like you say, I was watching plenty of YouTube clips and old video goals of him when it went through and that, and it was just like, and then when you seen Crystal Palace doing the I want to be adored video and announcing them and stuff, I wasn't ready for it.
Do you know something, Francis? Sorry to cut you off. I thought that was brilliant with Crystal Palace.
I was just to say that it was a brilliant way of announcing somebody.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. But yeah, no, I'm going to miss the guy because I genuinely think like we have been blessed recently with the strikers having and Dembele and Édouard. So, and now by all accounts it looks like we've got another wee gem in Kyogo. So yeah, I'm going to miss the guy. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard watching him. But I think last season, although he ended up top goal scorer in the league, I think the way he seemed to play and how he looked, that's also contributed to him going to a Crystal Palace. But I think working under a guy like Vieira, who they might not necessarily know personally, but obviously with that, them both being French and Vieira being a big figure in France football, I think he can maybe get the best out of him. And you know what it's like down in that Premiership. If Édouard has a good season this season, another club will take a punt on him because they'll look at it and go, could he be a Van Dijk? Could he be a Wanyama? They'll probably just take a punt on him, and it'll maybe cost them 35 million, but it's peanuts to them when you see guys like Ben White going for 50. It's nothing funny. So I think I'm not a bitter fan in the sense that I don't want him to succeed. I don't want him to. I hope he does well. I'm not going to lose sleep, but I'm not going to be like all. I don't know how to put this. Like try to like wishing him all future success, going, oh, I hope he gets here, I hope he gets there. But I mean, I wish the guy well. It was just one of them. I think it was just maybe his attitude. He was promised a move earlier than he thought he was getting a move, and maybe it was just that Frenchness, and they started sulking really.
But I mean, at the end of the day, as you said, I wish him well. I'm sure the majority of Celtic fans do. Do you know what I mean? It's as we touched upon there, it was his attitude towards the end. You could just tell he wasn't in it. He missed chances he would have buried 2 years ago, and he wasn't making them runs. He wasn't making them clear decisions. It was kind of just lackadaisical, and that's why we vented our frustrations towards him. But as you said, a good season with Crystal Palace, and they have good players to feed him, like the Sahan thing. So I'm expecting him to score a fair amount of goals, and who knows, he might get that move to a bigger club in terms of the Premier League standards. And we'll move on to Ryan Christie. Now, wow, let me hold on here to take my seat again and get started, right? Ryan Christie, this guy, for the best part of a year and a half now, you could tell as well that his heart wasn't in it. His dad was down in England at the start of last season, touting him for moves to English clubs, and obviously didn't materialise. But ever since that kind of came out, that was kind of leaked out, his head's been down. He just hasn't really cared. There's been fits and flashes of him playing well. Start of this season, we all raved about him, rightly so, because he did play well in that left wing position. It seemed like the Christie of old under Brendan Rodgers were back. But again, Christie comes back in his great fashion of saying that Bournemouth was a dream club for him, and he's had an affinity with Bournemouth since he was a kid. And I just don't get why footballers like him have to say these things. It's like they almost want to be accepted by the fans straight away instead of letting their performances do the talking, Francis. And it sounds like I'm being a bit downbeat on him, but it's true. Who are you kidding? Bournemouth were not a club that you followed when you were a boy, or even when you were older. It's madness that he says these things, and he wanted to move to the Premiership, but he ended up in the Championship, and it just proves that what I was saying all them times, that he played for himself as an individual last season. And I think, to be honest with you, Francis, the clubs looked at that and thought, I don't want that around.
Every chance I'd look at it, and it's like, yeah, when I read that comment about how Bournemouth apparently were in for him a wee while ago, so he's always paid attention to him, I was like, oh yeah, like it just reminded me of Robbie Keane every time he went to a club. It's been a dream come true, and you're like, how many teams did you support Robbie Keane? And I just feel like that was a wee bit of a Robbie Keane moment for Ryan Christie. I honestly don't get it. Like Bournemouth, I don't know. They're probably they're a bit of a yo-yo club. They're up and down the leagues. Yeah, they were in the Premiership for a good few years, but they're a nothing club. Like their full capacity doesn't even hold. I think I seen a stat, like I think it's something like a quarter of our capacity. The North Stand is about the same capacity. Yeah. They're full stadium, and they don't even fill that. It's got to be a big fall for grace for him, I think. But I mean, we know he's got the talent to perform. So maybe he could get that move into the Premiership. I don't think he'll get to the level he hoped to get to. But yeah, it was a strange one, because he did start the season fairly well, and there was a contract offer there, but he obviously knew there was offers down in England, and it was maybe just Bournemouth probably have offered us more than what Celtic could do, because unfortunately teams like Bournemouth cannot actually pay guys better wages than Celtic, so with the money down there. So I think obviously money has played a big part in that. There's no way he's been paying attention to Bournemouth for the last 3-4 years, especially when they get relegated. Still going, I'm desperate to get to I'm desperate till we get there. But to get 2.5 million for a guy with 6 months left in his contract, it's a good bit of business at the end of the day.
I seen a cracking photo on Twitter. I don't know who put it up, so if you're listening, claim credit for it, fair enough. But it was a photo of a bedroom just kitted out in Bournemouth things, and it said this was Ryan Christie's bedroom when he was young. But again, as you said, like, it's going to be a fall from grace for him. And one thing I'll tell Bournemouth fans is, please let the board know down there to invest in bigger nets behind the goal, because they're going to need it. Them houses behind them stands are going to have a major window repair bill at the end of the season.
But you've been full circle on the guy now. You're way back to last year.
The only reason why is because, like, it's comments like that really get me. It gets me angry, because you're right to point out Robbie Keane. He was joining all these random clubs saying they're the team he supported when he was a kid and all. It's like, what? What are you doing? Do you know what I mean? Stop talking shit. But look, we'll move on from Christie. Again, we'll wish him well. We'll see what happens with him down there. And we'll move on to another striker. Obviously, the controversial figure. I mean, you have to say that when you talk about Leigh Griffiths. And he's left to go on loan to Dundee under manager James Big Peak. And by all accounts, them guys are best of mates, and it could work for him there. But again, Francis, it's one of them things with Leigh Griffiths, isn't it? It's like we give him that deal, the year deal at the start of the season. 5 days later, bang, everything blows up, and it's a never-ending circus for Leigh Griffiths in terms of being involved with Celtic. And I think it was a kind of a show that Postecoglou didn't need around him. Celtic didn't need it around him. And going to Dundee for him, I know there's a lot of Dundee fans who didn't want him. I read it under their Twitter feed. I was quite interested to see what they all have to say, but it's a move that Leigh Griffiths had to make. I thought he would have went abroad or something to get away from all the heat, but he's went to Dundee and he's in the door and he's already still trying to pick fights in Neil Lennon. I just don't get the guy sometimes.
Yeah, he's just a bit of an enigma. It's like we've always said, a fit and firing Griffiths, you've got probably the best finisher in Scottish football by a country mile, but
5 years ago.
Yeah, well, this is true, but still, he was still scoring big goals. I mean, it's hard to compete against guys at the level of Dembele, even Sinclair when he was playing up there, and Édouard, who we recently talked about, but he was still contributing to the team and stuff and things like that. So, yeah, I don't know, was I surprised he left? I'm not so sure. I didn't expect, if I thought he was going to go, I thought it would have been to a Hibs. I get the Dundee move because he's got friends there and stuff. I don't know if he actually, and like you said, Stephen McPake, I think he gets
James
on well
McPake.
James McPake, Steve. That's because there's a guy from Colchester that we know called Stephen McPake. James McPake, yeah, he's good friends with him. So it's a move that could work, but I think he's played his last game for Celtic. I don't see us giving him another deal and stuff. And I'm not wanting to call Griffiths out for being unfit and stuff. I don't want to go into the.
Well,
the
he
stuff.
was.
Yeah, no. But what I was meaning is, I seen like his interview when he was obviously paraded and stuff. Not when he was talking about Neil Lennon, but when he was paraded and stuff. And it didn't look in the best physical condition again. I'm like, well, this is for 3-4 weeks into a season and stuff, and he still don't look in peak condition. And I hate kind of slating a guy when he's obviously had he's had issues and stuff and that, but Leigh Griffiths should have been our striker, Scotland striker in the Euros there, and he wasn't. The guy couldn't even get himself fit for Scotland being their first major championship in 21 years. He has got attitude problems, and his interview as well, he's saying how folk have had a lot to say. I'm just going to let my football do the talking. It's like, how many times you got to say this? So he's been saying it for absolutely years now, and I do try and choose my words wisely. I'm just because he obviously had well documented mental health issues. So I must try to choose my words wisely. But when he does come out with statements like that, I've not actually heard what he said about Lennon, but it might be a wee bit just tit for tat because obviously Lennon's had a go at everybody since they left Celtic, apart from admitting he was one of the big problems. So I've not really heard Griffiths' comments, and I'll probably not pay much attention to them. It was just that one when he said, "I'll let my football do the talking." I was like, "Oh, it's how many times have I heard this for you, and you've not?"
Well, he kind of contradicts that statement by having to go with Neil Lennon, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like you say let your football do the talking, but you continue to talk. I mean, come on here. But I'll tell you one thing, Francis. You seen me in peak condition in Glasgow, didn't you?
I did.
But like, I mean, what we're going to do now, I'm going to land this on you, and I'm sorry for doing this. But how would you line up now with all these signings in the team? I'll go first, so you can quickly jot one down. Even copy mine if you need to. I'll go from going forward now. Joe Hart in nets, Juranovic right back, Carter Vickers and Welsh centre back, Taylor left back, McGregor playing that deeper role with Turnbull and Rodgers in front of him, Abada on the right, Kyogo through the middle, and Jota on the left. Would you go any different?
Yeah, well, just keep talking.
keep talking. The reason obviously the midfield stays the same because again we've kind of left that position and it's a bit that's who's going to start week in week out unless there's an injury. Abada for the pace on the right, Kyogo, there's no kind of question there,
No.
and Jota, just for the simple fact that we have really no one else on the left, and by all accounts, he looks fantastic. And Juranovic at right back. I know it's harsh on Ralston,
Yeah.
but this guy's a Croatian international, and he's not going to take sitting on the bench too kindly, I
No.
don't think. So he'll be coming in and dropping Starfelt out, because I'll be honest, I think he's been pish, apart from the Rangers game where he did have a decent game, but only because we were under the cosh, and that's what he was used to in terms of playing Russian football. Welsh stays in for me.
We're only going with fit players. I mean, you've done well to fill that segment for me to fill out a team. I'll say
well, is there many unfit players I'm missing? I know Forrest, but again, Abada is.
I mean, I'll give you. Well, I would put Hart in goals.
Yeah.
Juranovic, Julian, Welsh, and Taylor, and then.
So, I get what you're saying there. So, would you not start your Julian and Carter Vickers together?
Because I mean, it's maybe got to contradict me because I'm saying I'm putting Juranovic in instead of Ralston, but Welsh last season was flung in at the deep end and done okay. He never really put a foot wrong. And then this season, I think he's been our best centre half. So I find it hard to drop the guy. But so I would maybe say Julian and Welsh in there. But I actually think after the arrival of Carter Vickers, not seen a lot of them. I think we're actually. I don't know if it's a strong position, but I think we're actually doing okay. You might start seeing the best of other players and stuff like you say. Starfelt, he's had these good moments, but he's had these horrendous moments as well. Yeah. But yeah, I think my back four, I think just if everyone's fit is Julian, Juranovic, Julian, Welsh, and Taylor. Then the midfield three is obviously Kalmak, Turnbull, and Rogic, and yeah, I'm the same as you. Abada, Jota, Kyogo.
Yeah, and I think as well, see the beauty about that front three, they can all switch positions during the game, so there'll be a lot of rotation, players dipping, players making runs, and it's quite exciting to look forward to that. And in terms of the main podcast, I mean, we filled a good chunk, nearly an hour, just us two, and I think that's pretty good. I'll give us a round of applause, people who's listening. But I mean,
I'll give us a 9 out of 10 for that.
A 9 out of 10, 100%. I bring the 10 out of 10 factors. I mean, but in terms of the podcast, Francis, that's us finished, and we did describe the window around about 7 out of 10 being average and above average. Obviously, we went over a lack of depth in certain areas and the outgoings and stuff. Have you enjoyed this one?
Yeah, it was good just to have a wee bit different. Where you've not really got the football to talk about with the international break and stuff on, so it was good to kind of review the window on a whole, really, Stephen.
Yeah, 100%, and looking forward to the next. Hope when this international break's over, when we're back in action again, to see these new guys and see how they play and stuff. Obviously, it'll take a while to settle in, but we do need to improve on 6 points and 2 wins and 2 losses. I think that's pretty clear for everyone. Do you know what I mean? For every Celtic fan, I know what we can see the progression, the tactics, the play, the style under Postecoglou, but we need to start finishing teams off. And away from home, we've been suspect, and European football again, we've been suspect, and we need to improve that, especially getting into the Europa League group stage. Would you agree with that one?
Oh no, 100%, Stephen. I totally agree. Like we obviously need to address the poor away form, which carries into the last season as well. So hopefully these reinforcements can help that, and obviously another few weeks with the coaching behind them and stuff. So yeah, I'm optimistic.
Do you know something? Do you remember when the bad form was happening under Neil Lennon? His favourite word was, "We've got another week's training, another week's training, another week's training."
Why did you need to remind me of that?
I
bet we can actually see progression under Postecoglou.
Aye,
we're just clinging on to things because it was Neil Lennon last season. I think we wanted it to work.
And everyone who's listening, my co-host John has informed us all in the podcast group that we are expecting or hope to go live by next week, whether that be the Monday show or the Thursday show. It should be one of them, Francis. So that's something to look forward to. It seems like this has been in the pipeline for ever since we started. Do you know what I mean? We're all
for as long as they're the Hound rumours.
Oh, exactly. that brings us back. And who called it right, by the way? Just saying, guys, that was me. But to everyone who's listening, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.